I really admire and try to emulate like women that they are able to set boundaries. I mean, I think setting boundaries is really important. Everybody talks about balance. You get too hung up on work-life balance, and it's like, it's just life. And it's how you choose to live it.
Today on the podcast, we are joined by an extraordinary leader and someone I have had the pleasure of knowing since our days together at Intel, Kim Kopetz. Kim is the president and CEO of the Opus Group, where she brings more than 25 years of global brand and experience marketing to life across a powerhouse or collective of agencies, Moss, Opus Agency and Verve. Kim's leadership style is rooted in clarity, efficiency, and heart. She is a result-driven executive who has not only scaled teams and operations, but helped shape the experiential marketing industry into what it is today. Her journey began on the ground as an event coordinator, and over the years, she has worn just about every hat, from event manager to chief growth officer to now CEO. Providing that rising through the ranks with intention and empathy can lead to real transformation. She has also held pivotal roles at world-renowned brands like Nike, the NBA, and of course, Intel, where she led the business, marketing, and events and championed customer experience strategy. At Opus, Kim has been instrumental in leading the acquisition and integration of multiple agencies, expanding the Opus Group's footprint across the US and Europe, and recently into Asia Pacific. So she's really a very busy lady. She is known not just for her strategic acumen, but for her ability to lead with vision and humanity. An exceptional woman, paving the way for the next generation of marketing leaders. Kim Kopetz, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here and proud and honored that you're taking the time to be here with me on the show.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here and great to reconnect from our Intel days.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. 9 years, yeah. So, and of course, while you were not working at Intel anymore, I was, watching your career, especially on LinkedIn. And so let's start from the top. Did you ever imagine, when you were the manager or managing events early in your career, that you have done, that you would one day become the president and CEO? How did that path unfold for you?
Yeah, no, I never would have thought that back in the day. And I think anybody over the age of 50 sort of fell into this career accidentally. Like now you can get a master's degree in events and experience design and all of that. But my first job out of college, I was at the NBA and fell into a rotation in events and attractions department. And so, I loved it and had an affinity for it. And I have gone through even like my days at Intel early on, I got out of events. And so I tried a couple of other sort of careers, but I think being on the agency side and then also just that marketing discipline where you really are around the sort of 360 view of the customer or the attendee was just really appealing to me. And so even though I dabbled in some other things, I found my way back to events. I didn't really imagine a career path in that way, but I do like helping people, and I do like sort of leading a direction and having an opinion and a thought. And it just sort of, I think really leaders tend to be selected, or you move into those roles if you have those strengths. So that's kind of like it. But I never sat back and said, I want to be the CEO someday. I've just been able to take advantage of opportunities as they've come to me.
So it wasn't really the plan, and you added, on purpose, this experience and this experience to end up becoming the CEO.
Yeah, no. And I think, I think we were talking about like being your authentic self. Like I need to work somewhere where I like the people that I'm with. I like the product or the service we're delivering. I'm compensated fairly, and there's opportunities to learn and grow. And like, if all of those sort of things are aligned, like you're in the right place and you can continue to take advantage of that. So, that was sort of just, being in where you have sort of all of these things in this contentedness or happiness state. And if one of those gets out of whack, then that's typically when I would make a move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you were at Opus before, and then you held different roles in between, or especially at Intel, where we two met. And then you came back, and now you're the president and CEO of the Opus Group. So it wasn't really the case that you said like, okay, this is the plan and this is meant for me.
No. No,
yeah. So, this podcast is really about also helping other women to find their way in either becoming a leader or having the career that is meant for them. I mean, we spoke about the authentic self. So what are some of the smartest and boldest moves you made along the way that helped you rise to leadership? Any tips that you would give to other women who are trying to navigate their way up?
Yeah. I think there's a couple things. One is you have to remember people, and you have to remember their connection. I mean, it's like you and I connecting. I mean, it's been probably 9 years since we spoke, but like I remember you, and I remember like you would remember how you were connected or what your strengths were. Like that to me has been the most important thing. I mean, people talk about a network, but being able to like reconnect those sort of synapses in your ecosystem is really, really important, because you never know who someone down the road might come back in your life, or like, oh, hey, I remember I met this person. And so for me, that's been a sort of superpower of remembering people and how I met them, and, what was unique about them, and connecting it so that even if you don't like can remember it in your head, but like writing it down and keeping this network. I mean, the one thing that drives me crazy about LinkedIn, because people will like link in with you all the time, there needs to be like a notes section. Like, how do I know this person? Even if it's, I don't know this person. Like, but if someone's like, oh, I met you at this conference, like that kind of stuff is, I just think it's super important. And one of the other things that I learned, or just in my personality, is like, not to settle. Like I was talking earlier about being happy in a moment. Like I see a lot of women that sort of stay complacent somewhere that they're not happy, because of not having either the confidence or the resources or the things to make a move. And I've been really blessed to have a very strong partner, husband, where it's like, I just need to shift. I can't work here anymore. Or I just need to try something new, or I'm going to go after this job, to just do that and not, I've seen people in my life that are just sort of loyal to a fault in a way. They don't make a move when they should, and sort of sense this inflection point. And then the other thing, and I learned it at Intel, is to advocate for yourself. I think I was really naive when I was younger of sort of waiting for someone to recognize your hard work, and waiting for someone to be like, oh my gosh, I notice how hard you're working. Let me promote you. And that just doesn't happen all the time. And, especially like even small companies, like they're not going to actively pay you more if they don't have to. Like that's just, and so I think of learning to advocate and thinking and putting that out there is really, really important. And I did learn that at Intel because I think, sitting around waiting for something to happen, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, true. And that is also a very difficult part for many women. At least what I see is, speaking up or taking the recognition for what they have been doing. We did that and not I did that is very difficult for a lot of women. It's like,
That's so funny. I actually had an executive say to me that I don't say I enough. And I'm like, well,
I just had that conversation with an HR leader, and she said, hey, if you go to an interview, don't talk about we did. You're there for the job. So say I did. Talk about you and not talk about we. And I think that's really one of the things that I see also with women in specific, where we often struggle, being proud of what we did and talk about it. And like you said, but I think it's also, especially in large companies, you cannot really expect someone to think about you for the next promotion if you are not, finding your voice and making yourself visible.
Yeah. I think there's like some study or I read where men typically will, apply for a job that they haven't held or they don't have the skill, but women will make sure that they actually can do the job before they apply for the job. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a shift of understanding, no, I'm completely capable of doing this. I may not have done it, but I am smart enough to figure this out. I have the resources, the network. Like women just have to have that confidence to go, I can do this. And so I think that's a difference and a shift. And I certainly know that there are times where I've been out over my skis, but it's like, I know I can do it. I can figure it out and have the confidence to do that, even if I've never done it before.
Yeah, me too. I mean, this is getting out of your comfort zone and taking on a job or applying for a job that you haven't done before, but this is the only way to grow. I mean, if you always continue to do what you already know and are 100% an expert in, you will never grow.
Yeah.
Talking about men and women, I would like to hear your thoughts on, do you think there is a different perception or of women in leadership roles need to be, tough as a man, or is that a myth in your thoughts? I mean,
I don't know that it's tough, but more like confident or controlled or measured, and direct. I don't think people react well to leaders that are dramatic, men or women. It just isn't in I don't react well to that. It's just not necessary. And I'm very direct and measured, and it takes a lot to get me really worked up. But I think that I have respected leaders more that I know are consistent, and I know they're going to be, there's not any embellishment. It's very factual. It's because you can rely on that, and there's a consistency and a normalcy. And so I think it's not necessarily tough. I think I have been a respected leader in the fact that I'm very empathetic. I think about all the angles, and I think about all the sort of couple steps down. And, really even at Intel in that TA role where you're controlling, communications, it's like I could be sending out an email that's going to 5,000 people and thinking about how everybody that reads that email is going to interpret it, because it's going to be different, And so I think you sort of have to have that sort of calmness about it, because if you're reacting to just one certain audience or one certain factor, you really don't see the big picture. And so I don't know that it's necessarily tough. It's just accurate. and it's like I said, it's like it's control. Like there isn't emotion behind it as much.
Yeah, and I think now that so the way how you explained that, I think it's a lot about also building the trust. And if you have someone always going into a drama or, being too emotional about things, it's not building trust. I mean, staying.
Well, because you never know who you're going to get. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so when people, and I mean, everybody's got their stuff that's going on in their lives and all that kind of stuff. But, I've been pretty consistent to like not really bring that to work. And that's sort of a conflict today, because people are like, oh, well, then you're not being your true self and you're not being this. But it's like, well, when you're a leader, you gotta be consistent for people, because they might have stuff going on. At least they can count on you that's going to tell it to them straight, or they're going to be like, okay, this is the goal. This is where we need to get. How are we going to work together to get there? It doesn't mean you have to be like hardcore and not empathetic and all those things, because we're all humans. But I think that's probably the harder part of compartmentalizing. Like, this is the work and this is the decisions that need to be made, and then this is the human part of it. So.
Yeah, it's true. That's really one of those difficulties that leaders have, is this balance between being empathetic, being, the human you are, and at the same time, but making sometimes tough decisions or having to communicate. I think there is also a time where leaders are just humans. When you are, at the coffee machine and you're having a coffee, then it's fine to talk about also what is going on. But true, I mean, people trust and they rely on you, and you have a huge responsibility as a CEO and president. And so finding this balance is key. So what were some of the real obstacles you faced on your way up? So not we spoke about the LinkedIn, not the shiny social media version, but really the things that were difficult, and how did you handle them?
Yeah, I think I didn't really have like a lot of major things. I mean, I got laid off from Nike. Like, I've been through some of that stuff and sort of reinventing yourself, or what's sort of next. And I think sometimes, they're horrible to go through, or it's hard to go through, but then you sort of find what you don't like, or what you do have an opportunity to do things a little bit differently. I think the hardest thing for me in my career was, and this is super unique considering where I've worked in some of my places, I have never not worked for the person that interviewed and hired me. I have always worked for someone that I also chose to work for until I got to Intel. And there was a restructure, and someone was hired over me that I did not interview with. I don't know that I would have gone to work for that person. And I quit. I looked for a new job. Like I moved on. And when I was at Opus, and I can talk about this because the CEO knows this, I was the president and there was no CEO during COVID. So the CEO at the time had stepped down, and the board had asked me to be president. And, there was some nuance. There was, I had direct conversations of like, do you understand the optics of like, you're putting me into a job that a man had. Now I'm a woman, and you're not giving me a CEO title. You're giving me a president title. But there were optics. I mean, there were situations behind the scenes. We were private equity owned, like there's banks, the whole event industry was upside down. A lot of companies didn't make it. So there was just like around that. But I knew that, but the rest of the world didn't know that. So sort of like navigating through that. And then, our board hired a CEO above me. And I didn't know it. And I found out 48 hours before I met him. And so that was really, really hard because my natural reaction was what I did at Intel was to quit. But then it was like, you know what? Like, I'm kind of getting old. Like, I don't want to start over somewhere else. I really like this company. And so just being open-minded as to what can I learn from this person? They obviously had vast experience and expertise. And, they had done tons of acquisitions. And I personally had not individually managed an acquisition. So like there were things that I just had to get my feelings out of the way and just think differently. And like I'll always approach a challenge now with that mindset because I did learn from it. And, I became a better leader by learning from him some of the things that I just didn't have exposure to. So, but that was like, I think just my mindset is when I was younger, it would be like, I don't need this. I'm out of here, and that's really not the best way to approach things. But it's a balance. It's a balance between like, I'll go to a certain point and then go, you know what? Life is too short. Like I'll figure out something else. Versus I'm going to stick this out. Cause remember I was saying like all the things that need to be in balance in terms of the people you work with and all this, like all those things were happy. So I just needed to get out of my own way for that change. So that was tough, but it was definitely learning. It turned out okay.
Yeah. And I think we all had these learnings, especially in big corporations. There are reorgs happening and all of a sudden you have a new manager, which like you said, you haven't chosen, or you have a new role and a new manager, a role you never applied for and you would have probably never applied for if they would have asked you. I think, like you said, I think it's important really to look at the options you have. And like you also said, life is too short. Sometimes if all is, not in line with your values or really against something and you do not feel good about it, totally not. And you looked at it open-minded with, not trying to judge it from the situation where it came from, saying the reorg, but looking at, okay, these are my options. And then you decide, but there is definitely also something to learn from being placed into a role or with a manager that wasn't really first choice, but something to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of changing the mindset of like I have to work for somebody that I'm going to learn from. Like I am reporting to someone, like I need to know that like they're smarter than me or they know things or they have different experience and I'm going to learn from that. If I have a situation where someone is now my manager that I could do their job, like that does not bode well and it's very demoral. It's not motivating at all. And so, I think that's so then just changing the mindset of like, okay, what can I learn from this person?
Exactly.
They said, I can't learn anything, but it's like, you certainly could,
Yeah, look for those areas. And I also had a lot of different managers and all of them, I think if I now look back and reflect that all of them had something that was something I can learn from them and take with me and becoming a better leader myself when I then became a leader. Yeah. Were there any times where you felt underestimated because you're a woman or young or?
Yeah. I never really felt from a woman perspective. And it's interesting at Intel or any large enterprise tech company, you have like a lot of engineers. There's like a lot of difference of it. I think women in different disciplines like engineering would see that more often than I did, like in sales and marketing. And so I I never felt I wasn't getting respect or credit because I was a woman. And so I didn't see that just from a gender perspective. But the example of, someone being hired over me, you're underestimating that I think I could do this job. Like, I can figure this out. I can, and so that's where, you get a little unsettled in something if someone sort of passes you up for a role. And I've been very fortunate. It hasn't happened very often in my career. I mean, I think really only 2 major times. And that's just, maybe there are things obviously there are things I didn't know. But I thought I could figure it out. So someone has to take a chance on you. And I've been really lucky that I have had managers that have taken chances on me and risks and said, I think you can do this. So
Yeah, it's probably not lucky, but Well,
I have been fortunate to meet people. And I would say lucky in some situations, right place, right time. Mm-hmm. I always remember actually Greg Pearson at Intel. He said, I have a good inflection point sense. Like, I can sense a change and I act on it. And so I listen to my gut, and I think that that's kind of going back to do you stay somewhere for too long? Because, it's kind of, but I don't have that. I don't have that fear. I will.
Yeah. And it's, by the way, very important that we listen to our gut. I think that a lot of people lose that connection to their gut and do not trust the gut anymore. And I think it's important to at least listen to it and then, add some additional information and then make a decision. But I had the impression myself that I was a little bit losing that connection and not listening enough to my gut and just, moving on with role after role and reorg after reorg. But it's important. Yeah.
Wow, for sure.
So you have also been very instrumental in integrating multiple agencies. I mentioned it in the intro. Now Europe, but also now Asia Pacific. How do you approach these big transitions like that as a leader? Because you're now facing more different cultures as well in your communication. Like you said earlier, it's important to, when you communicate, to think about the people that will read or listen to the communication. So how do you approach that with different cultural backgrounds that these agencies now have?
Yeah, I think it's imperative that when you are thinking of acquiring a company or it's that you're doing the due diligence on the culture and actually how work gets done, which is very different than the financials. And I think a lot of times, especially in PE-backed company, like that's the goal. You want to invest and have a return on your investment and all that's kind of great. But when you're particularly with agencies and you have clients and you have this, like you can't sabotage what made them great in the first place. And that's usually their culture and how they get work done. And it's the relationships with the clients and all that kind of stuff. And so being very, prescriptive on how you look at that and say, okay, you get a phone call in for a new project. Talk me through this entire process. Because then as a buyer, I would know from an integration standpoint how disruptive it is going to be and and even from a financial perspective to say, like, for example, a lot of these small agencies, like they may be on a cash accounting basis or and we're on a GAAP account, like just that change alone. Or now you have debt because you're PE backed. You have to have audited financials. You have to close your books every month in 5 days. Like these are things that are just, that's disrupt, has nothing to do with the work, has nothing to do with the clients or what you're producing. It's just operations. And that may mean we're going to have to hire 2 people in finance just to get those things done. Well, now you're sort of affecting the financials. And so like you really have to think from all the perspectives. And then what is always important to me, just my own, what makes me tick is I have to understand, I have to have context. I have to be like, why are we doing this? There's no shortage of lack of, like, the more information, the better, and people are along for the ride. So you have to explain things like, perfect example. You happen to be on American Express as your corporate card. Well, you're going to come on board and I'm going to switch you to Visa. Like, that's a change. You were like, nothing's going to change. I'm like, well, even those types of little things are changes. So if I just said that and you'd be like, this is annoying. I could say, but if we're on Visa, we actually can get a rebate. Like, so you're explaining why we're making changes. It's a little painful, but the reward is better. And if you can't actually explain why it's better or why we're doing something, then I would expect people to push back. Like, so, I mean, I need to have that context. And as a leader, I think that's really important too. You've got to bring people along for the ride so they understand that these decisions were not just made out of like willy-nilly or this sounds fun. Like, there are business reasons as to why we're doing this. And our goal ultimately is to all grow together and provide more opportunities and provide all of these things for our teams and our clients. And so, yeah, it really does come down to, that culture, and then how does work get done, and understanding it and layering into what you're currently doing. But I like that. That to me is fun. You're sort of solving for something, and you're gonna, there's a little bit of risk, but if you do it well, it's not that risky. So,
yeah. I think it's a lot like we spoke earlier. It's a lot about really the communication to get the people on board, not to expect them to understand without having the full picture and buy in for something which is different and new. And
I think there's a balance too, because you can really get in like coddling paralysis. Like, we're going to like make sure everybody's feeling okay about this. And it's like at a certain point, you got to go, no, we got to rip the Band-Aid off. And this is happening on this date and everybody needs to get on board. Because otherwise, I mean, you do have to move with some, sense of urgency to get things done. Otherwise, it actually is, the slower you move, the more disruptive it can be.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I can see that.
Wow.
So talking about, we talked about you being the leader. Did you have any role models, especially women, that shaped your leadership style or gave you strength when things got hard?
Yeah, I've been asked this question before. I really don't. I don't have like an individual where I said, oh, this person or this, but I really admire and try to emulate like women that they are able to set boundaries. I mean, I think setting boundaries is really important. Everybody talks about balance, and it was interesting. I don't even know. I wish I could remember who I could, give this credit to this quote, but it was something about, it's, if you get too hung up on work-life balance, and it's like, it's just life, and it's how you choose to live it. And so if you're constantly struggling with this balance part of it, then you're not living your life the way you want to. And some people are workaholics and they can work and they thrive on it. And so like not feeling that that's somehow that's wrong. So for women, like I admire women that can balance the kids, the family. They know when to say no. It's like, I'm not going to take this on. I'm not going to overextend myself, because I'm not like, if I ever do that, you just don't feel good. Like you're just kind of giving everything a half effort instead of what is really important, the full effort. So there's women in my life that like, I admire that about them, but, it's more of like, that's the skill stuff. And I think respect is probably one of the most important values for me. And this is in anything, even in my work life. Like it drives me absolutely crazy when people don't respond to like and where you need something. And it's like living in this golden rule of do unto others as you would have them do. Like I just take that to heart. I'm super responsive because I want to have that relationship where if someone needs something from me, and then maybe someday I'm going to need something from them. And like, so that, like, I think that women that think that way and are very respectful of the people in their lives, like I admire that.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, this is also what drives me crazy. If I do not get a response, and if I'm being asked, and I get a lot of requests these days, I mean, being self-employed, there are a lot of people who want to help you. And so, but I'm always like, okay, the next time I'm reaching out to someone, I also would like to get a response. So I'm, even if it is just a short, 2-liner, 1-liner, something that, hey, not for me, not right now, not the right time or whatever, but at least letting someone know, okay, I've seen your request, or I think that's really, important. And unfortunately, I've heard that many times this is not always the case, especially when people apply for roles, and there I can't understand where this is coming from. The companies sometimes do not really respond and saying, hey, we received the application, but I don't know, process is already.
Yeah, I think that's hard though. And even just like sales outreach and things of people you don't know, like it'd be impossible to respond to a lot of those things, because I know there's like job applications where they get 1,000 different jobs. Yeah. But if somebody's not following up after you've actually had a conversation with someone, or you've done it, like that's different. Yeah. I always even think about like something I might be volunteering for, and, it'll be like, hey, I need, this information by Friday. And then it's like, they literally, they don't respond. It's like, we're all volunteering. Like, this is not, so I think that's more of the, when I think about that but it ties back to boundaries, because if you don't have the bandwidth to do something, then don't take it on. Like, if you can't do it well, then don't take it on, or be really honest about it and say, hey, I thought I could do this. When I signed up to run the picnic, I thought I could do it, but these things have come up. Let me help you find someone else. I think that's just that's respectful too.
Yeah. So we are almost at the end of the interview part of the podcast. I have 2 last questions, which I ask my interview guests. The first one is, what is the best career advice you have ever received, and how has it impacted you or your career?
I think going back to the, advocate for yourself. Like that was the best career advice. I wish I had gotten it a little earlier in my life, because I probably could have saved myself frustration. But advocate for yourself. That and actually also, here's another one, is to put your ideas on paper and present them. So there's no shortage of good ideas. And I did that at Intel. Like, the whole customer experience thing is like, I literally did a presentation of why I thought this is the direction they needed to go, and, could influence on it. But if it's just the conversation, sometimes it gets lost, and you really thought through it, of putting it through and presenting it to someone and it real. I think that's good advice too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. And the last question. So what would you tell your younger self now, if you could pull her aside at the very start of her career? Is there anything?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I was saying, it's really, advocating for yourself and, speaking up, not watching things happen, but speaking up and, being true to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this was the interview part. Thank you for answering the questions and being honest and transparent with your answers. now we have a bit of a fun part just for the listeners to get to know you a little bit better from more the private Kim. Or so the rapid fire questions. I will give you sometimes 2 words or a question, and you just answer what comes your way, and you can explain it a bit more or just leave it as it is.
Okay.
Okay, it's good. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Power outfit, heels or sneakers?
Heels.
Black suit or a colorful dress?
What's the first one?
Black suit.
A suit?
Yeah. Or colorful dress?
I'm going to say black suit with a pop of color.
Go. So, is there one word colleagues would use to describe you?
Well, it's not very glamorous, but I think I would say consistent. Maybe thoughtful. Not thoughtful like I'm kind. I mean, I hope I'm kind, but thoughtful in like thinking things through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
And coffee order of choice?
Black.
Oh, just black? Good.
Beach or right to the vein.
Beach or city?
Beach or city?
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like sand, but the view is better. Maybe the beach. Okay. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one because it depends on the city. Depends on the beach. Yeah.
And beach or countryside?
What's
the countryside? So taking vacation, you go to the beach or more the countryside or?
Yeah, vacation's probably the beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also vacation, adventure or relaxation?
Relaxation.
Oh. Then email inbox, 0 or chaos?
0.
Oh, well, one day you have to tell me how to do that. I always called my inbox my monster.
Here's my tip, is I blind copy myself on every email that there's an action item. So now it's back in my inbox, not for me, but for someone else. So then it seems like where I'm totally like, hey, where are we with this? And then I'll start at the bottom of my inbox and I can go up and everything that I'm copied to, I know that I'm waiting to hear something on.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then leadership style in one word.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's difficult. I know.
Leadership style in one word. Oh my gosh, that's tough. I guess I would go back to consistent. I mean, or like controlled, measured, or, it's like, there's not a lot of drama.
Yeah. Okay. And, your guilty pleasure, TV show or movie?
Oh, TV show, reality TV. Oh. I watch a lot of Bravo. It is like the escape from, it's just silly.
Yeah. And then last question, home office or office?
Well, I have a home office in Las Vegas, but that's like different. I don't have any distractions. If I'm in Portland, like there's dogs and, things going on, then I would like an office because I like, seeing people or the energy. But I get more work done in a home office.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the rapid fire question round. Thank you for that. And now the last part is the coaching snack. Anything that any book recommendation or podcast or TED Talk that you would like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I definitely do not. I'm not a podcast listener. I probably need to get onto the podcast. And I think that for me, because I'm so focused at work, everything that's outside of work is just for fun. So like the books, I read like psychological thrillers. I do watch a lot of reality TV. If I'm going to listen to a podcast, it's going to be like a recap of what the housewives were doing. So I think like that's my coachable snack is like, you've got to take time for some fun or brainless activities, especially if you're in a really intense job or role. Otherwise, like you got to keep the humor in your life. You gotta find those releases. So me reading a business book is probably not a release, but I don't know, reading some sort of pop culture drama is. So,
I love that.
That's my advice is like, find time for the fun stuff. Yeah.
I love that. It's a coaching snack, even though it's not the, the fitness book or the, I don't know, podcast about science or whatever. I love that. It's very authentic and open and honest. And that's why we talk. It's to also for the listeners to get to know different women and with different women with different paths to career and lives, and there is not one single plan recipe that brings you up to the top. You need to find yours. And thank you, Kim, for taking the time. I know how busy you are. You're also mom of 3. And the CEO and president and, living at 2 places. So I cannot thank you enough for taking the time. And I enjoyed our interview and chat. And so hope to stay connected and in touch. And
well, thank you. And congrats on the podcast. I think it's awesome to have a platform to hear different perspectives from women. And so appreciate being asked.
Thank you.